Hello, my name is Resilan Bearcat, and this is my first playthrough for the Rise of the Darkfog expansion for Dyson Sphere Program. This is the Albalda playthrough series. Hope you enjoy the gameplay. This is going to be a special video about early game blueprints and what kind of blueprints that I make. And you'll see here, if you look into my game, I've got a number of different blueprints that are in here, and I've got a folder for early game blueprints, and I have 12 blueprints here that I use in the early game to build various different things. And part of this is just to speed up the process, but I thought I would actually share some of these blueprints, and I will actually put these blueprints up. I'll put a link to them where you can download them if you want them as well. So just kind of creating this and what I do. So just starting out, some of the first two things you're going to build is copper and iron. So there's all of these blueprints are modular and have a very common pattern to them. So if we actually bring these in here, let's actually also, as part of what we're doing, just to speed things along while we're doing this, let's go over here and stick this over here. That'll make it build that. That'll send out some bots and some other things. And let's also grab let's see, we'll just put some power down through here, connected in. This will make things go a little faster. There we go. That way we can see things. We've got the tower up here, and we'll put a power pole there. Okay, there we go. Now the bots from it will actually be assisting us. And okay, we'll build that manually. There we go. Look at all those bots out there that build and stick things in there. All right, now with that, this is so now that we've got that in place, and I do highly recommend having one of these battlefield analysis bases. They're pretty nice for helping you build, especially in the early game when your drones are so slow once you unlock that thing and can build it. But I like to keep things very simple with the mark here of the item coming in, and then the blueprint here, and this is just producing 6 per second iron ore. And you'll notice then in my early game I've got copper, and I know you can copy and paste the blueprints for various things, but if I throw copper down and we bring this in here, we'll see that this is very similar to the blueprint for the last one. In fact, it's identical except for the blueprint and the item that's actually coming in. So this is what I do, is I create these little modular units to where the only thing I have to do is just throw them down, and then I can actually then kind of pick them up and do what I need to do. Now, a number of the blueprints are the same and are like that, and I'll skip over some of those, but there are a couple that are different. For example, the graphite. If we come in here, or not graphite, but magnets and graphite are different, so I'm going to throw both of those down while this is in here. The graphite only produces 3 per second. You'll notice it's the same blueprint, but it doesn't produce as many. And we can see here that this produces 6 magnets per second, but it requires 9 smelters in order to do that, whereas the graphite is producing 3 graphite per second and is only producing, but is the same 6 items here. So this is kind of the pattern for the raw materials. So raw inputs producing the outputs, kind of a first tier items that are coming out. I tend to build a lot of these modular blueprints. Then I can just drop them down wherever I need them in whatever quantities I need them, and then move on from there. So especially in the early game, it speeds things up tremendously. So I'm going to bring these things out now, just pick them out of here. And we're going to look at a couple of the other blueprints. Once you've got some of these things created, the next part of this, for example, is a lot of times you need a second item that you need to produce, and a higher tier item. And this comes in here to, for example, if we wanted to do circuits. Circuits is an item that requires 2 of the inputs. So what we'll do is we'll drop circuits down here. And we will also, now I'm just going to tell you, magnetic coils is the same thing, but what we can do here is let's do steel, and I'm going to just kind of chain the whole thing together while we're doing that. So we'll drop this while that's building up there so that we can see that. We'll also drop this down here, so that is iron coming in, and then once I've built the iron, I can come in here and take the steel, which takes the iron, just link the two things together right there on the item. And now I've got the iron producing that is needed in order to produce the steel, and I've got these things hooked up, and I've got 2 per second steel coming out now with this particular blueprint. And so you kind of see how this works and how they link together. And it basically, you know where the hookups are, and you just hook them up. And up here, this right here is, you know, producing the items that are coming in here. We've got the assemblers coming in. Now the assemblers run at a 75% per speed. So while it says that it produces it produces an item every second, that's not exactly true. It is actually going to be every second, and you know, it's going to be a little bit more than that, because that it runs at 75% speed, and that is true unless and until you actually use a proliferator and you do a production speed up. So with proliferation and a production speed up, it does go to 100%, or you can just go to tier 2 of the assembly and mark 2 assemblers, and then it's 100%. The math gets a little bit different at that point in time, a little bit easier. But this is why it takes 4 of these in order to produce the 6 per second that you see here. You know, you would think that it would only take 3 because it's producing 2 every second, but there is a 25% slowdown, and so you know it's only running 75% speed, so you know you're only getting 3/4 of these, so you got to have 1 more to make up for that, and 4 produces the 6 items. So that's some more of the blueprints and how they, my starter blueprints and how they go together. Now I'm going to take these 2 out now that we've got those in there, and look at a couple of other blueprints that I use. One of the other blueprints that I use, let's put those in there. Okay, now then, blueprints. Next up, I've got a blueprint that does my maul, and we'll talk a little bit about the maul, but I've also got some gears. I've got one blueprint that does iron and gears. It takes raw ore in and produces iron and gears. And so if we look at that, and what that does is it sends half of the resources out as iron ingots and half of the resources out as gears. So if you only need 3 per second iron or gears, like in the very early part of the game, you can build this. It's just literally 6 smelters and 3 assemblers, and then I've got 2 storage boxes here just to take some of the resources in. You can actually very quickly, if you want to also bring some of these things out, is you can actually connect these 2 things up like this, and now there's an output coming out of that as well. So there's 2 going in, 1 going out, you know, type of a thing. So I mean, you can configure that any way you want to, very quickly and very easily, depending on what you're trying to do there. So that was one of the other blueprints that I have that I typically use very, very early game. Once I get a little bit past the early, you know, the initial stage, I won't tend to use that one as much. I will tend to use the gears up here, either from ingots or from ore, just depending on what I'm doing, and things like that. Now, there are some other blueprints here, the prism and the plasma that actually comes in. You know, you actually make these items from the glass, and you can chain glass into the into prisms and then into plasma. But the other blueprint that I think we'll talk about here is in the early game, before you can go to another planet, there are a few things like this battlefield analysis base up here that you really want to be able to do with you want to be able to do this thing with and you need a little bit of silicon. Well, there is no silicon on the starter planet, and so you have to use stone to do that. It takes 2 belts of stone coming in to produce this, and basically that is 12 per second of stone coming in to produce 1.2 per second of the silicon coming out. However, it will give you a little bit of silicon to get started with. It is just a quick blueprint you can throw down. You take 4 miners around a stone belt, you connect 2 of the miners into one belt, 2 of the miners into the other belt, and you're off and running. Everything, all of these initial starters is things that you can build with blue science. So at this point in the game, I have all the blue science researched. Now, I'm in a sandbox game for this and what I'm showing here, but I've enabled all the only things that you can research with blue science, so you can kind of see the tech tree. Same thing for the upgrades, so what you can do. All of the blueprints can be done. The vast majority of them are under 150 facilities. There are a couple that are over 150, and you'll need mass construction 2 to be able to use. There shouldn't be an issue to get that by the time you get to the point where you're needing those blueprints. So that's the other component here. Now, the last thing that we'll do, and I'll hit the plus key to make this a little bit bigger just so I can swipe it down through there and erase it, is to talk about my mall pattern. My early stage mall is a modular component, and I'm going to build this one going this direction. So what we have here is this, and this includes the defenses. So we hook this up, and the initial build, the first segment of this, is something that you can build very early on in this process, and this gives you belts, sorters, and assemblers. It also gives you power poles. So this is the Tesla towers. So this is the early stage, in things you need for that. Now, in order to do that, you actually have to have some of the, you have to have all of your items coming in. You have to have iron, you have to have bricks, you have to have the circuit boards, gears, and magnetic, the magnetic, what are they called? Magnetic coils is the name of those. And then you've also got a belt up here with turrets for protection of your mall. So, it actually comes with that. So you'd actually obviously put the ammo up there on that. Now, once you've got that down, the next phase of this comes in. So that is phase 1 or stage 1. Stage 2 just snaps right in. You actually come in here and align the power pole. You can see how the power pole is in there. You align the power pole. Now I'm going to have to, hold on a second, I'm going to have to get rid of this other blueprint that's in the way over here. There we go. That way I have enough room to do this and to show this. So what we do is we come in here, stage 2, you align the power pole. That's how you know you've got it lined up the way you want to. Actually, but you do want to rotate it, make sure it's rotated the correct way. The storage boxes will always be on the same side. Once you do that, you hit Shift Enter once you've snapped it down, and then it'll actually fill in, and this brings in a good number of the rest of the items that you're going to want in the early game. It brings in your miners, it brings in your turrets for your Gauss turrets, it is going to bring in your smelter, and all of the sorter, the splitter, comes in, and so these things all comes in here. It brings in the wind turbines, which are usually pretty good on starter planets. I guess you could have it. I think they're all good on all starter planets. So they'll use, there's your smelters, and of course the final item down here is the storage box. So with that, the first two parts of this right here, then you've got a large portion of the things that you need in order to be able to automate the building, so that you don't have to be, using your replicator building everything that, just, hundreds and hundreds of belts and things that we have. So once you put these two down, and you don't really have to have a lot of the early game, you don't have to be very far in the game in order to be able to drop those down and to be able to use those. And then finally, the last part of this brings in the last few items that we use. I'll rotate this around, drop this in. So this is where glass comes in. There are some items here that need glass for this, and so this brings in the science. This brings in your storage for your liquid storage. It also has, just because it fits within this, it also has the traffic monitor. Although at this stage in the game I don't use the traffic monitor, it's there, as well as the thermal power. So that's kind of the starter mall, just a starter aspect of the things that I use in the early part of the game, and in order to speed up the process of getting to to the next planet. These are blueprints that I use to keep things organized, to keep things looking nice, and to just make the game play a little bit faster. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a like and some comments. Guys, I will put up the blueprints. If you want to take a look at them yourself, feel free to download the blueprints from the link in the description below. That is all for today's video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit the like button and leave a comment to let me know what you think. Please subscribe to the channel to be notified when new content is available, and check out the link shown here for more gameplay. Take care.